I definitely had to come on real quick because I really want to talk about these interviews with Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, right? Conversations that she's been having with these men. So the first thing I want to say, she has hit the nail on the head. Differentiation between high value, let me say it like this, value and function, okay? I believe in what I have seen in my own experiences and in my own healing. And when I say in my own experiences, y'all don't forget, okay, that I have been an educator for 20 years. I've seen and heard the different values that people possess, okay? I have seen it, I have heard it about just my own personal relationships. I'm not talking just about my personal experiences. I have touched the lives of thousands of families, okay? Like let's just be very clear, okay? So when she breaks down the difference between value and function, I think that's so important. When I speak of value, I typically speak of value that includes the high function, okay? But some people don't value emotional intelligence, okay? Some people do not include having a high emotional IQ to be a part of being high valued. Let's start there because high value men when KS was on the scene, right? We heard all that conversation about high value men, women want high value men, yada yada yada, and that because they are high earners, because they are resourceful, because they have a network, because that they get to call the shots and do what they want to do. And the woman, if you want that kind of man that makes the kind of money who's going to take care of you, you have to accept it. That was the message that he was, right? Even though that is a real dynamic, okay, it does not encompass the balance that is required of a good quality of life, period. Partner, no partner, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? That definition does not include the emotional intelligence that is required for you to have a good quality of life. So I like how she breaks the two down. I was talking to myself, the dual dichotomy, right? Because I don't know if quadrotomy is a word, right? A quadrotomy. I don't know if that's a thing, right? But the dual dichotomy of high-low for value and for function. Because you can have somebody who is a high earner, who is resourceful, who is connected in the community, but have low emotional intelligence. You cannot encompass that person as solely high value when they have low emotional intelligence. I don't care what you earn. I don't care what you earn. Every human being has to be working towards being a high functioning, high emotional intelligence individual, because that is where compassion, empathy, understanding, those things lie in that. Knowing when to pause to give people grace. Knowing when to push somebody and knowing when to pull back. That discernment that sometimes we pray for and want, that wisdom that is a part of being high functioning. I need people to understand that. So my problem with the video, with the podcasts, I didn't have a problem with the podcast. I thought the conversations were awesome. Can't break down and understand the dynamic in the conversation and what's happening, then you will lose sight that could be life-changing. You don't get to really hear the life-changing message through the banter. I want people to understand, I need you to hear the life-changing messaging through the banter, okay? And not the bad qualities of poor conversation. Okay? So my critique of the podcasts, her having these conversations with men, I feel like these conversations need to happen amongst men. Let me tell you something. Both Cam and Nick, both of them coming from a knowledgeable expert who also, I'm telling you, I don't know about her life. I don't know if she's living her life in a healthy way, but how she talks about it, and when I compare it to what healing looks like and what is required in healing, the girl is dead on. The girl is dead on. However, these men, they are not in a space to receive from a woman who is of high function, who can critique your low function. They couldn't handle it. At every point in turn, Nick was trying to big up his dysfunction, his ability to survive in dysfunction, a positive. And this is why you truly have to know who you are. And I truly believe that understanding comes from having a relationship with God. That is what I believe. So I feel like in the conversation with both Nick and Cam, so when it came to Cam, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was taking jabs. Oh, it's taking you forever. I just asked you where you was from, and it took all of that just to get that you was from LA. Okay, well, her thing was, I just can't tell you I'm from LA. I got to tell you the people who the shoulders I stand on. That's important to her. That's an important part of her narrative of where she comes from. It's not just the location of where she comes from. See, he was asking about location. Because she's high functioning, she was talking about the lessons, the context, the situation, what I grew up in. That's where I'm from. I could have been in any motherfucking city. But if I still had these same parents and still had this same dynamic was going on, I'm still standing on that. I get that. I get that. He didn't get that because he wanted a short answer. He didn't want all them words. Low functioning, don't want to hear nothing high functioning got to say. That's how I got the nickname Little DT. Ha ha. If you know, you know. That's how I got the name. Because once I started learning and developing, I started to learn that high functioning. I started to learn how to operate as a high functioning individual. And so anybody that's not operating at a high function, they don't get me. They ain't fucking with me. They ain't rocking with me at all. I don't need at all. That was my issue with those interviews. Them conversations need to be had with men. So then my other point is this. Have a Latarius Whitfield on your podcast. Have a conversation with that kind of man. Have a Jay Barnett on your podcast. You understand what I'm saying? Have a conversation with that man who are healed and healthy individuals. Have Stefan Speaks, Stefan Labossiere on your show. Talk to that man. You understand what I'm saying? Dr. What's his name? Dr. Delasaro. Have a conversation with that man. Have conversations with high functioning men. Because y'all not receiving it from a high functioning woman. Y'all not. Ego, pride, whatever the case may be, y'all not hearing it. So even though it was a good conversation to be had, you know what I'm saying? I felt like the gems that she was dropping for the masses, right? When you're talking about the masses and when you're talking about you have a world audience watching these conversations, to not allow her the space and the grace to speak her truth and to say something negative about it is crazy. When Cam, so in Keita Rose's response about how she had to placate to this man and still check him, right? But I don't look at it as placating to him. I look at it as her doing the best of her ability to allow that man space and grace to speak his truth. See, as women, we don't pick up on that. You know what I'm saying? We quick to be like, oh, she had to coddle him, right? She had to coddle him. That's a negative connotation when we use the word coddle because we're treating you like an infant. And it's frowned upon to be an adult and you still have infant-like tendencies where you have to be coddled. See, that's a dig. That's a jab. But if you have a healthy perspective, healthy mindset, Let me flip the script. I allowed that man to speak his experience, his truth, but and because she said something so important in the camp interview. She said, you know what? She was like, I can celebrate the fact that you're trying to show up, be there for your kids, da 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 da. She said, I can celebrate that, right? Like, I'm not celebrating the fact that you're going around procreating and creating these broken homes. That I'm not going to celebrate. But you try to still be a good dad. I can celebrate that. Do you understand the difference? If it ain't up to par as a friend, you know what I mean? As a colleague, as somebody that cares about you. And like, he was coming for her when he was like, you don't have nobody that you look up to. She was just like, nah. Like, I have, there's qualities and you know what I mean, that I admire, you know what I mean? But I create the vision for myself of what I want to be. Why was that so hard for you to understand? Like, we teach kids all the time to dream. A dream is where you make up something. You haven't really seen it, but you take things that you have seen and you create something new, and it's a dream. But if I have a dream and I want to chase it, I can envision that dream and want to be that. I didn't like how the men handled my sister on those conversations. I didn't like it. Those men. She allowed y'all to have a safe space and be vulnerable and to say what you wanted to say. But I feel like the men did not do that for her. Hear how people are responding to these interviews and what they're really thinking. And like, in a reflective way though, like, what parts of yourself do you need to fix? Be well. When you're listening to these things, don't be listening to them to be all up in somebody else's business. Use this as a measuring stick to be about your business. And if you're unsure, you have questions, then go do some research. Go read. Go seek another source. Go seek several sources. You know what I'm saying? I just want everybody to be on a path to want to evolve to be the highest functioning self that they could be. Because ultimately, that's what's going to make the world collectively a better place. If everybody individually does their part, what kind of communities we could have? Yeah. All right, I'm out.